Here for the Lowe's early Black Friday deals? You're right on time for some of our biggest savings. We're talking up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. Holiday lights going up soon? Select ladders are up to 50% off right now. Get Black Friday prices without the Black Friday crowds. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 11/19. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
This is Kevin Harlan. This Friday, the NBA on Prime crew and I are back with another exciting Emirates NBA Cup doubleheader. First, Pascal Siakam and the Pacers square off against Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then it's Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets facing Kevin Durant and the Rockets. If you're not a Prime member, just sign up for a 30-day free trial. Pacers, Cavs, Nuggets, Rockets. Coverage starts Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Only on Prime. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
At 1-800-Flowers.com, we know that connections are at the heart of being human. Whether celebrating life's joys or comforting during tough times, 1-800-Flowers helps you express what words can't. For nearly 50 years, millions have trusted 1-800-Flowers to deliver thoughtful gifts that help create lasting bonds. Because it's more than just a gift. It's your way of showing you care. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO and connect today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on this episode, we're going to break down a shocking trade that unfolded late Tuesday night when the Orioles sent Grayson Rodriguez to the Los Angeles Angels in exchange for outfielder Taylor Ward. We're going to talk about the trade, look at both players, Rodriguez going to Los Angeles, Ward coming to Baltimore, and talk about what it means for the rest of the Orioles offseason before getting into some other roster news that happened on Tuesday night, which was the Orioles protecting reliever Cameron Foster and outfielder Reed Trimble ahead of the deadline for the Rule 5 draft. But first, as we like to do at the top of every episode, we want to shout out some new members of our Patreon community. And for that, I will turn it over to Bob.
Yeah, so I'd like to welcome to the community Connor McGovern. Great name, good mouthfeel flows. Connor McGovern, welcome to the AA level of the On the Verge patronage. Thank you for your support. And also Tyler Rouse. Hey, I noticed that you upped your pledge. You've been promoted to AAA. Congratulations, and really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And as a reminder, you can join our Patreon community at the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus coverage as well as additional perks. And we will have our daily countdown of our preseason top 50 lists coming here in the next few weeks. We are going to get into, though, the big story from Tuesday night, which is the Orioles and Angels striking a deal that sent Grayson Rodriguez to Los Angeles in exchange for outfielder Taylor Ward. And for Rodriguez, this ends what has been a long sort of journey for him with the Orioles organization, drafted in the first round in 2018. From the time he got into the system until he reached the majors in 2023, consistently ranked as one of the top, if not the top pitching prospect in the farm system, was considered a top-tier, top 100 prospect in the sport by the time he made his major league debut. And after an initial bump in the road in 2023, went down to AAA, came back, was dominant for the Orioles in the second half as they won the American League East. He came back in 2024 looking better than ever, but then was shut down with a lat injury in July of that season and has not gotten on a major league mound since. And 2025 was particularly frustrating for him on the injuries front as he went down initially with elbow inflammation before dealing with a lat issue and then undergoing elbow debridement surgery in August, effectively ending a season that was pretty much over at that point. Rodriguez is under team control for 4 more years, but for reasons we'll get into tonight, there's a lot of questions surrounding his health going into 2026. On the flip side of this, the Orioles get back Taylor Ward, who's coming off one of his best seasons in the major leagues, setting a career high with 36 home runs to go along with career high in games played, runs, doubles, RBIs, walks, slugging percentage, extra base hits, and total bases. In the 2025 season, Ward hit .228 with 36 homers, 117 WRC plus, 11.3% walk rate, and 26.4% strikeout rate, while being worth 2.9 F4. He is entering the final season of his contract before hitting free agency, and per MLB Trade Rumors projections, expected to earn $13.7 million in his last go-around of arbitration eligibility. So, Nick, I want to start with you here because we've seen the highs and lows of Rodriguez throughout his professional career doing this show. The highs were a lot of fun, including his time in the minor leagues and in the majors. But I think out of the three of us, you had probably been expressing the most doubt about Rodriguez going back to spring training of last season. So what are your thoughts on this deal?
Yeah, I never any doubt about the stuff, right? Just about the injuries. And yeah, there's so much to unpack. I've spent all day trying to solidify my thoughts around this trade, and I don't even think I am there yet. First of all, can we make trade announcements not at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night, as after gummies have been consumed and I'm drifting away into faraway land, and my 3-year-old decides to wake up because she wants to just sleep on the floor of her brother's room. But I'm up, and I said, check your phone. I went to roll over to go back to bed. I said, no, check your phone, because of all yesterday's other crazy roster stuff. I was like, the Orioles have traded for JJ Bleday, and you need to read the carnage on social media. I sobered up instantly. I was awake for another 2 hours. It was probably 1 a.m. before I was finally able to just zone out. So I don't know if all my thoughts are still here. It's shocking that this was the first major move. I think Josh Naylor going back to Seattle was expected, maybe not the time, but an expected move. So this is kind of the first shockwave of the offseason. And I think my general reaction is the Orioles got the impact bat that they need. We spent a lot of time already this offseason thinking, all right, if the Orioles want an impact bat, it's probably going to be someone who plays center field. Maybe it's Byron Buxton, as Bob brought up. We spent some time talking about Brenton Doyle. Those options are going to cost a pretty penny. It looks like they went a different route here with Taylor Ward. You look at the free agent class, there's not a lot, as we've talked about as well, as everyone's talked about. It's Kyle Tucker and then Harrison Bader and then a lot of really nothing. So kind of weak there in the free agent class. And so I think the Orioles took an interesting route here to get Taylor Ward. I would have never guessed in a million years it was going to be Grayson Rodriguez. Ward, I think, just generally speaking, like from a fantasy perspective, right? He's like the boring pick every single year. He's always there in that range where you need an outfielder and you're like, I'll take him because he's going to give me 20 home runs, 20 doubles. I'll take him. But he's not exciting. But from a real life perspective, like you just routed off some of those numbers, the career had 36 home runs, 31 doubles, a lot of career highs there. There's whiff and there's strikeouts in his game, but we'll talk about. I think there's more in the tank even for Taylor Ward, but you get the impact middle of the order bat that this team needed, and you move on from Grayson Rodriguez, and it's been a long time. It's a series of injuries at this point, and I think you make the decision to move on now before you get nothing for him. It's like, why none of us had him in the rotation next year? We're all like, whatever you get as a bonus. Mike Elias didn't seem too optimistic. Called him the wild card was his wording there. The reason I've been so down is I wish the injury was more straightforward. Like, it's TJ, you're done, you're recovered, here you go. But it's not. And like, is he going to miss another year upcoming? Is that in the future? Do the Orioles looking at those medicals and saying, I don't know, could TJ be next? Like, and you move on now? I don't know, but it was not an Orioles type move that we are used to, and it was shocking. But just generally speaking, before we unpack even more, I like it. I like the deal.
Yeah, I'm still going through like the 5 stages of this trade because, very similar. I was settling down, 11 o'clock, getting ready to turn over, go to bed, look at my phone one last time. There's an @everyone from Sterling in the Discord, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay, let's see. Did we get our closer? Did we sign a Devin Williams? What's going on here? And I obviously see the tweet from the Orioles official account. Of course, doesn't leak to anybody. Even the Orioles just tweet it out like before Jeff Passan can even say anything. And just pure shock. Like, what? Just didn't understand it. Hated it. Just from the standpoint, this guy, look, we're a prospect podcast. We've been following him pretty much. I mean, obviously he was in the system before we started our show, but he was like the premier pitching prospect, maybe one of the best pitching prospects in Orioles history, or at least recent history. he made it to the majors, looked like he was coming into his own, and then obviously we've been over the past couple of years here. But I really thought with the debridement surgery that maybe things could get back on track. Clearly, this front office wrings every ounce of surplus value out of the fringes of the roster all the way down to everyone. We always think they're going to get rid of somebody, move on from somebody, and they do not. And they trade Grayson Rodriguez to the Angels of all teams for Taylor Ward, a 1-year rental. I'll get to him. Like, I'm no problem with Taylor Ward whatsoever. I think he's a really solid bat to add to the system. We'll get to it more, and it's like, wow, definitely gave up way more. I'm still waiting for the news that Reed Detmers is also coming over in this trade somehow, but it's not to be. So at first I hated it, but clearly, look, if this is this uncharacteristic of this front office, this organization, there's a reason this trade was made. And I'm assuming that these medicals are not pretty. And maybe the debridement surgery, maybe he started throwing in October, and now the Angels say he's going to start throwing in January. That's weird. What's going on here? Maybe the velocity isn't back. Maybe there's still pain in the elbow. Maybe he had another lat thing happen, and maybe they think it's never going to stop happening. Maybe they concluded at best he's going to be a reliever moving forward. But clearly, the Grayson Rodriguez that we went into the 2024 season with, it's not the Grayson Rodriguez of today, or else this trade wouldn't have happened. So it's two parts to it. It sucks. First of all, it just sucks for Grayson Rodriguez that the team is giving up on him. I honestly, I hope this trade hurts looking back, just from Grayson Rodriguez standpoint. Hope he goes and defies the odds and kills it in Anaheim and becomes that ace we all thought he could be one day. But yeah, I think better to get something than nothing if you think it's not going to ever work out long term. So bring on Taylor Ward. We got at least one bat. I think this offense could go into the season as is today and be a top 10, top 5 type offense potentially, especially against lefties. Ward helps a lot. But yeah, we'll break it down more into it. But my initial thoughts were hate, come to terms, and now I kind of like it just based off the context clues.
Yeah, it's been weird with Grayson, and I kind of agree with what Nick said, where it's like you can't really get a clear answer on the injuries because you go back and you look at the last 4 seasons. He's had just one full season since 2022, and that was in 2023. He missed a good chunk of 2022 with a lat injury right when he was on the precipice of reaching the major leagues. Then he has the injury in 2024, and then he piles up 3 injuries basically last year, misses a whole season, and you feel like you still don't really know any answers. And I thought that Mike Elias's comments about Rodriguez since the season ended have been a little odd. There was a question posed at the end of season press conference about Rodriguez's status, and I thought Elias didn't really answer it. It was a ringing endorsement of the role that he was going to play with this team next year. And one thing that I think with Orioles fans is that I've joked around before that Mike Elias says a lot without telling you anything. And Orioles fans want to get online and they want to decode every little thing that Mike Elias says to derive meaning from it, when most of the time there is no meaning. Yet I think with Grayson Rodriguez, he did the exact opposite of that. He basically said very little, but told us everything. Here's a quote from him just last week at the winter meetings, or the general manager meetings in Las Vegas. Multiple reporters, including Andy Koska at the Banner, had this. Elias on Grayson Rodriguez, quote, "It's not something that we're planning around very heavily, but he's a guy that provides a real wild card value for us talent-wise." I saw that at the time, and I thought, wow, that's a little weird. But maybe it's just an acknowledgement of we relied a little too heavily on him last year. We're not counting on him coming back full strength at the start of 2026 and taking the big step forward. We're going to plan a little more diligently this time around. But it turns out that I think he was kind of spelling out for us there, we're not really planning on him being in the rotation. And that, if they were looking at it that way, that's going to greatly affect what they expect to get back in return.
Yeah, I just keep getting caught up on the fact that this is a young pitcher with multiple years of cheap control that is gold in this sport. Former top prospect, and maybe the shine is gone. I think it became clear like he's probably not going to be that ace. And I don't know, the constant need to define or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I think is exhausting. I hate it. Are you a major leaguer or are you not? Are you getting a ball in a playoff game or are you not? Regardless, pre-art pitcher, former top prospect, multiple years of control. Again, that is gold in this sport. The Orioles move on from him for a rental outfielder. You can have like the theories or whatever about behind the scenes. I don't take any stock into any of that. I think the Orioles might think he's cooked or heading towards being cooked, and or at least another extended absence. And so, do you take 50 innings of Grayson Rodriguez as a reliever next year, or do you take a couple of starts, maybe a back end starter, and take the gamble with his health, knowing that something even more serious could be on the horizon potentially, or do you make the move now? And maybe they felt, I don't know if it was like being forced at this point. Maybe they did feel forced to move on at this point. You don't want to lose out. And so we will take the rental now and go from there. I don't know. I just think they didn't like where he was at physically. And there could have been a setback. Like you guys have touched on there. You aren't going to publicly say in October, November, whether or not there's going to be a setback because of the offseason and potential to move him. We could have been headed to a January update. Michael Elias comes out sometime in January after the new year. The Orioles shopped him behind the scenes. No one bit. Elias comes out and says, yeah, Grayson still isn't throwing. Who knows? There's a setback there. You know, it's not TJ, but he's hopefully by spring we can get him like start to ramp up, and but by mid-season you see Grayson Rodriguez make his rehab starts in AA or whatever. Who knows? But I don't know. I think you say you move on now while he has value, and maybe this ends up backfiring in a major way. Maybe Grayson is healthy and serviceable for the Angels for the next few years, and Ward is fine, but doesn't help the Orioles get a ring. And he's gone at the end of this year, but you know, he's already missed more than a year. He's yet to pitch a full season in his career in the big leagues, and he could potentially be heading for more missed time. I know he had the quotes today about, yeah, he's feeling good and yada, yada. The quotes from the Angels aren't going to come out and say anything with a fact right now. So who knows? It's all unknown. Again, it's all speculation. We don't know. But I mean, you look at Ward, to touch on him, I feel bad because I feel like the whole conversation has always been like Grayson. But like we got a new guy here in Taylor Ward, and this is a middle of the order bat that I think is going to have a big impact here in Baltimore this year. And like, you know, you look at the 36 home runs, 31 doubles, career high 475 slug. And I said earlier, I think there could be more in the tank. He doesn't chase. There you go. A lot of talk about chase this offseason. He doesn't chase. That got him to an 11% walk rate last year. The whiffs and strikeouts in his game are high, but his bat speed is 2 miles per hour lower than league average. His max EV was 111, which would have ranked 9th on the Orioles last year. So we've got this whole brand new overhauled coaching staff on the hitting front. What if they think they can get a little bit more out of that bat speed? You catch up a little bit more on some pitches that you would have whiffed on last year. You make a little bit more impact on the ball. Maybe he doesn't return to 136 WRC plus that he had in 2022, but you see the average tick back up to more in line with his career mark. I think it's closer to 250, I believe. You get back up to that 30 plus home run mark is solidified, and yeah, there you go. And he's driving in 100 plus runs again with this lineup that's hopefully improved around him. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's just so many different ways to look at this, and it's the unknown and the fact that the offseason hasn't even really started yet. There's still so much offseason to go. It's hard to judge this just like in a box.
Yes, that was going to be my next point. Is it's November 18th that this happened, like 2 weeks into the offseason essentially, and this, like, they almost rushed this deal, like, to kick things off. It just blows things wide open for me. It makes like, okay, maybe there are some bigger changes that they have planned than just, okay, we're going to bring in these set roles and run it back. But my theory, educated guess, is setback, whatever, medicals after the surgery didn't respond the way they were hoping. They're shopping him around, obviously showing to other teams, look, this is where we're at. He's at medically. What would you be willing to give up for a risky play like this? And to be honest, Angels, it kind of makes sense. They're the team that bites because they're always going for it no matter what. They're always hitting on 19 and trying to find a way to make things work. And look, maybe they said, look, there's a 20% chance Grayson comes back and can be a legitimate starting pitcher in our rotation. Taylor Ward's a free agent after this year. We have 3 outfielders we can run out there already. Let's do this. Because I feel like if it was more than just this is where we think his value is, the Orioles don't make a trade if they don't think they're winning the trade. I think they think they're winning this trade. The fact that it's just Ward, no throw-ins, no prospects, no anything. Yeah, that's what I think is happening here. But to look at Taylor Ward, as Nick already said, yeah, I completely agree with the bat speed thing. Like, it seems like that's a focus on at least this modern age of hitting coaches and maximizing and improving guys even when they're already established. You can increase the bat speed. He had lower bat speed, but great barrel percentage, average hard hit percentage. He doesn't chase. He doesn't even whiff that much. He walks a lot. There's a lot to like here. If you can increase that bat speed to average, right now it's 15th percentile at 69.5 miles per hour. If you can get that around average, I mean, things could get a lot closer to that 136 WRC plus that he had in 2022. And his BABIP was 257 this year. So that's, I think, why you see the 228 batting average. Maybe, I mean, just luck averages out. Maybe you can get the strikeout rate down a little bit, get the bat speed up, and maybe he's going to have like a 3 to 4 WAR season. And then you can qualifying offer him where you either bring him back on a 1-year reasonable contract, or you could potentially get a draft pick for him. Or maybe they settle before arbitration numbers are, or before they go to arbitration, and they do that patented 1 year plus the team option for 2027. Maybe he's here more than just 2026, but I like the player we're getting. He does a lot right. I mean, he's a left fielder for the most part, but I think he's fairly average, maybe slipping a little bit, but arm seems about average, range seems about average. Maybe he can play first base if you need him to. Defensively, I think he's fine. This does mean I think Cowser is going to be primary, the center fielder, unless there's more obviously happening with a long way to go this offseason. Hits for decent average, gets on base, hits for power. I think he's like a good 5-tool hitter. He's basically Tyler O'Neill if Tyler O'Neill could consistently stay healthy. So I think I'll take that. So happy to have Ward. Sad about Grayson.
This is Kevin Harlan. This Friday, the NBA on Prime crew and I are back with another exciting Emirates NBA Cup doubleheader. The night starts with Pascal Siakam and the Indiana Pacers meeting Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers in a battle of familiar foes. Then it's off to Texas as Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets take on Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets for the first time this season. It all comes your way this Friday on Prime. And if you're not a Prime member, that's not a problem. Sign up for a free 30-day trial to get started today. The Pacers and Cavs, the Nuggets and Rockets. Coverage starts Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
When it comes to delivering flowers for life's special occasions, trust the name that's been setting the standard for nearly 50 years. 1-800-Flowers.com. From breathtaking bouquets to one-of-a-kind arrangements, 1-800-Flowers is your authority on quality blooms. Always fresh, always stunning, always delivered with care. And right now, for a limited time, you can save up to 40% off your bouquet and make someone's day. Save up to 40% off today at 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Yeah, but like you guys, it was hard for me to process this last night and even into early this morning. And when I first saw the move, I thought, well, I feel like Taylor Ward is more the same for this lineup. No chase, but he seems to struggle to make contact on pitches in the zone. But then as I started to look at it a little bit more, I thought this is the hitter that we've basically been waiting for the Orioles to acquire for 3 years. Right-handed, middle-of-the-order bat, not necessarily the guy that you're going to build your whole lineup around, but someone who can balance things out a little bit. He rakes against left-handed pitching. He's going to give you, I think, 25 to 30 homers at a minimum. And like you just said, Bob, he kind of is Tyler O'Neill, except the difference is that he doesn't have the long injury history that O'Neill has. And that's why that move backfired in year one for the Orioles, was that O'Neill missed a lot of time with injuries. Ward has played over 150 games in each of the last 2 years. So I think you can feel reasonably confident that you're going to get a full healthy season out of him.
Good.
If there's one issue I have with this, though, it is the defense, because it's very underwhelming. And my concern is not moving Colton Cowser to center field, because I think as long as he's healthy, Cowser is going to be above average in center field. It's just that now I'm looking at an outfield where you have Taylor Ward in left, Cowser in center, trying to play the position over a full season for the first time in the major leagues, and then a combination of Dylan Beavers and Tyler O'Neill in right. So I would like to see the Orioles, at a minimum, go out and add a defensive-oriented fourth outfielder, and maybe even add another outfielder. And it's something we're going to talk about a little bit, probably in our next episode, as people are reading a lot into, well, there's a logjam at first base DH right now. There probably won't be one by the end of this week. So there's room for the Orioles to get more outfield help if they want it, and have Taylor Ward be their DH. There is some flexibility here for them to make another move that could minimize his time in left field. And that's kind of what I'm hoping that they'll do, because if there's a potential for this deal to go wrong, it's that Ward's numbers, the power stays about the same, but the strikeouts and the walks take a step back, and the defense takes a step back. That's where this deal can go wrong for the Orioles. But if they can find a way to make the improvements that are very possible based on what you two just talked about, and somehow work it out in left field where you minimize his exposure out there, where you figure out what you have to do to make him average when he's out there, then for the here and now, the Orioles are going to win this trade.
And, to go on a couple different points there you guys made, the injury stuff, first, I think the only significant time Taylor Ward has missed over the last couple of years is didn't he take a fastball like right to the face and needed like emergency surgery. So, yeah, I mean, the injuries, no, this isn't the Tyler O'Neill type signing there, risk there. But I do think, as usual, with an Orioles trade, the optics maybe don't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And I don't think it made sense maybe even to us initially as we were trying to process this late at night. But because this team needs pitching, you move on from a young, controllable pitcher to get a bat, but maybe you move on before the dam breaks, you get the impact bat you want. And now the focus can be on filling out the rotation, not with 40-year-old guys who have retirement papers on the counter that just need to be signed. But also, talking about the trade, was this just a one-for-one deal? It probably is, but it also could be a situation where maybe they extend Ward And maybe there's already been discussions there, and you're talking about the defense and maybe the move not being done. I think everyone, including us, becomes so concentrated and on who we want the team to sign or trade for. But clearly this organization could shock us again. So is this the first domino where, I don't know, are they going to move Cowser? Do they move Dylan Beavers? I wouldn't if you're also going to lose Taylor Ward at the end of the year. But
do they find a way to dump Tyler O'Neill's contract?
Yeah. Can you move Tyler O'Neill at this point? If they're willing to eat that salary, maybe that helps. But it also could be a situation where you also made the point, like the Orioles don't make a trade unless they think they're winning this trade. It could be, hey, this is a win now move. And maybe this is a signal that this is a win now offseason. And it ends up being Taylor Ward in contract year. The contract year bump is for real with players in baseball. It is very for real. I don't think he's going to pull out the Josh Naylor stolen bases, but you get contract year Taylor Ward not playing for a dumpster fire organization with the Angels. And maybe, like you said, you issue the qualifying offer, you get a comp pick next year as part of this deal as well. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about the outfield, but I would not be shocked if we see another big move with the outfield.
I agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You never know. I mean, that's the thing with this move. It's just like anything could happen. Westberg, I was mostly joking with the Westberg trade for Tarek Skubal. I mean, this could be real now along those lines. And then you bring in Alex Bregman, another right-handed veteran bat. I don't know. But yeah, Taylor Ward, I think he's being underrated a little bit by the Orioles fans, that some of them, not all of them, that I've seen be like, really? I mean, I don't mind trading Grayson, but Taylor Ward, this guy's like a Ryan Mountcastle type. I don't know. I think that's undervaluing him a little bit. He's been like a 2-3 WAR player the last few years. But yeah, what's next? What's from here? Who knows?
I think it's a good segue to a listener question that we got, and I decided to pull it out of our episode that's going to air next week for this episode. It comes from Daddy Batty. Do you think the Grayson trade was made with a signing/trade for a starter already done or far along in negotiations, or are they winging it and really sure that they'll be able to land someone big?
I feel like they have to have a certain level of confidence that they're going to get a legitimate starting pitcher in here this offseason, whether it's trade, whether it's free agency. Amai, the Japanese pitcher, was posted yesterday too. Maybe things are going well in the early stages of that. Who knows? But I don't think that they have anyone in their back pocket yet. I just don't think that's how it works. But I have to feel like they know the market and they have a level of confidence that, and maybe they would have made this trade regardless, but to me, it's a very confident trade to me. I don't think it's made from a state of fear for Elias's job. Like, oh my gosh, got to win now no matter what. I do think there's a certain level of hot seat potential if the 2026 season is like a semi-repeat of 2025. But to me, this is like a confident, we know what we can do. We know what we're going to do. And this is part of it. We trust the pitching development to replace the unfortunate circumstances surrounding Grayson Rodriguez, and we trust the owner's wallet that we can also replace the production we could have expected a year or two ago from Grayson in the rotation.
I don't think at this point on November 19th, it was like we're just waiting to receive the paperwork back from Fromber or Cease or somebody. I don't think we're that far along in negotiations or even trade negotiations. Especially if it's trade negotiations, those things could fall apart at any second. So I don't think it's that we're going to see another announcement in the next 24, 48 hours of the ace coming to Baltimore. But I also don't think this was just like, screw it, let's roll the dice, let's see what happens. Here you go. The Angels were offering Taylor Ward, and we said Grayson, and they said yes. I do think there's a sense of, again, just they don't like the medicals. They don't like where this thing is going. They do need to win now because I do agree. I don't think the seat is hot right now, but if 2026 is a repeat of 2025, it's not just the hitting coaches that's going to be changed. That will need to be changed. So I think this was how much value are we going to get out of Grayson in 2026 and potentially even 2027? Look at what we can get from Taylor Ward right now. The lineup, I feel, I don't want to say, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to jinx it. It's November. This lineup looks really good on paper on November 19th, right? Go on Fangraphs, look at roster resource, you look at their potential lineup. I really, really, really like this lineup right now. And now focus on the pitching. Like, you've got 2 months. It's time to go hard with this pitching staff situation. And it was calculated, but I don't think there's like another move happening in the next 24 hours.
Also, sorry, Zach, one last thing I was going to say, my last chance to talk, and I just completely forgot, was that what did we talk about? The Orioles struggle with hitting the fastball in 2025. Well, Taylor Ward, he hits the fastball really well. I believe he had his best numbers were against that pitch versus others. So another check mark on potential improvement there.
And I also have one more point to get up, but there's so much we can go with this. The fact that it's Grayson is one thing, but the fact that just looking at the fact that it's Taylor Ward as this impact bat, and again, he may not be the only big bat that the Orioles bring in, but this is all that's happened right now, so this is all we got to talk about. I much, much rather prefer we've got Taylor Ward now, even if it's just for 1 year, versus Adolis Garcia being mentioned as a trade candidate, or Christopher Morel coming in, or the JJ Bleday thing that I was joking about. It's no more this reclamation projects. Like, Taylor Ward is not a reclamation project. The guy's going to hit 30 plus home runs if he stays healthy next year. So I think you just, in that aspect, if you're not a big fan of Taylor Ward, I do think he is, like I mentioned earlier, kind of the boring type player, but he does his job. He does what you need him to do in the box.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I don't think that there's a move imminent because, one, the Orioles weren't really – it is early in the offseason. The Orioles also weren't in a spot where if they signed a starter or they traded for one, that they had to move Grayson immediately. There was no salary implications with this because Rodriguez is still pre-arbitration. And then you also have the fact that it's not like trading Rodriguez cleared a 40-man roster spot. So they didn't have to move Rodriguez immediately. I do think, though, that what this spells out is that not only are they going to go in on pitching, whether that's through trade or free agency remains to be seen, but I don't think they're going to call it a day after they get their arm that's going to go towards the top of the rotation. I do think they're going to bring in 2 starters this offseason. And it may take the form of a solidified mid to back end starter. I mentioned Brady Singer as a possible salary dump move by the Reds recently. If Brady Singer is your number 4 starter going into next year, I think you could feel really good about your rotation. It could be that you look for someone who's basically an insurance policy to Tyler Wells, who looked great at the end of last season. But as I said repeatedly over the last few weeks, if you look at the Orioles rotation right now, 1 through 5, with the players on the roster, only one of them had a full healthy season last year, and that's Dean Kramer. So now you moved on from Rodriguez. You've got to find someone else that has a track record of durability. And then I think you at least got to bring in someone that, if Tyler Wells just doesn't look like he's 100% in spring training, or you decide, you know what, we think that given his track record, he's had a few injuries in his career, never started over a full season, we want to put him in the bullpen, you go out and you get your number 4, your number 5. But I think that's what the Orioles are setting themselves up that they absolutely have to do. And I feel like that they've made this trade now kind of spells out for us that that's their plan for the offseason.
Yeah, I think 2 starters and a closer. That's the main objective. And obviously other things can get done as well. But yeah, that's, I think, going to be the highlight at the end of the offseason.
This is Kevin Harlan. This Friday, the NBA on Prime crew and I are back with another exciting Emirates NBA Cup doubleheader. The night starts with Pascal Siakam and the Indiana Pacers meeting Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers in a battle of familiar foes. Then it's off to Texas as Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets take on Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets for the first time this season. It all comes your way this Friday on Prime. And if you're not a Prime member, that's not a problem. Sign up for a free 30-day trial to get started today. The Pacers and Cavs, the Nuggets and Rockets. Coverage starts Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
At 1-800-Flowers.com, we know that connections are at the heart of being human. Whether celebrating life's joys or comforting during tough times, 1-800-Flowers helps you express what words can't. For nearly 50 years, millions have trusted 1-800-Flowers to deliver thoughtful gifts that help create lasting bonds. Because it's more than just a gift. It's your way of showing you care. Visit 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO and connect today. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/WWO.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Let's go over now to what we were planning to talk about at the beginning of tonight's episode in less chaotic times, and that was the Orioles' decision to protect reliever Cameron Foster and outfielder Reed Trimble ahead of Tuesday night's deadline to protect them from the Rule 5 draft. If you listen to our preview of these roster decisions last week, you know that Foster is not a surprise as far as we're concerned. The right-hander is acquired from the Mets as part of the July trade to send Gregory Soto to New York. Pitched very well for AAA Norfolk. After the deal, you look at the stuff that he has, a fastball that runs 95 miles per hour, mixes in a cutter that is particularly effective. But for a pitcher that's going to be 27 next season, he seemed like he was close to being major league ready. The Orioles go ahead and make the move to add him. Trimble, though, was a little bit more of a surprise. Because while he was generally solid last year, that was really the first healthy season he has had since being drafted by the Orioles back in 2021. And just to give a kind of high overview of Trimble's time in this system, right after the draft in 2021, we did our mid-season top 50 update. Trimble was 16th on that list. So spells out we had pretty high hopes for him, but then injuries over the next 3 years really stalled his career. He started last year at Chesapeake, and although he had an injury relatively early in the year, still managed to appear in 90 games, primarily between AA and AAA. And to run off some of the numbers last season, between the two levels, he batted .259 to .342 on base percentage, 46 slugging percentage, 17 home runs, and a 126 WRC+. He was also 21 for 21 in stolen base attempts. So you look at those numbers and you look into the data, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more here. Trimble had a really good 2025. And it's not as though that came out of nowhere, but he also has a long history of injury concerns. So let's start with Trimble. And Nick, I'll go with you here to start off. We were kind of on the fence about this ourselves last week when we were asked, are the Orioles going to protect Trimble? I ultimately didn't think it was going to happen, but it did. So what were your thoughts on the decision?
Yeah, definitely a little shocking. We even all made like all right, who's the surprise prediction, and we all went pitchers because I think that made a little bit more sense. The Trimble move was just like I think I said last week, like it just seems similar to the Hudson Haskin conversation last year because of the injuries. The talent level is a little bit different, skill sets are a little bit different, but just from an injury perspective, I just felt like Trimble wasn't a guy you needed to protect. Easy enough to protect him from the minor league phase. Good to go. He's back in the system as depth next year, but I guess the Orioles really liked what they saw from him last year. Like you said, his first healthy-ish season, only 90 games, but still, you mentioned the home run numbers, a 112 max EV, not a ton of chase, decent contact rate, strong barrel rates. Like he hits the ball hard. He's a switch hitter. He's got speed, effective speed as well, bringing up every chance you get. 61 for 61 in stolen base attempts in his career. He plays all three outfield spots. Yeah, I guess see what you got in him. It's it's a fantastic story. Just the fact that he's protected on the 40-man roster, to be honest, because I didn't think I was very high on Reed Trimble coming out of the draft out of Southern Miss, but the injury after injury after injury, and we're not talking about like nagging hamstring injuries. We were talking about like some serious injuries that caused him to miss. What was he playing? 15, 20 games a year for like 3 years there. It just felt like it was going to be too much for him to overcome. And he was getting like time was passing him at this point, and he wasn't going to be able to overcome all this stuff. Surprise. He's on the 40-man roster with a shot to contribute in the big leagues this year. I think it's an awesome story, and I'm going to trust that Orioles really, really liked what they saw in that bat there.
Yeah, Orioles, as always, very predictable what they do when it comes to protect players on the 40-man roster. My final answer before the deadline was Fabian, Weston, and Bondler. No, and no. But, I mean, Foster is obviously not a surprise. We talked about it last week, and I think, yeah, it just shows how much they do like his stuff, and I think that's a good thing. He'll definitely contribute in 2026 at some point. But Trimble, yeah, happy for him. I do think it's not necessarily like a one-for-one. They think Trimble has leapfrogged Fabian in their eyes. I think it's more of a calculated, we think Trimble could potentially get picked and not return versus Fabian we don't think is going to get picked. It's who knows. You know, we learned from Zach Pop that it doesn't always the risk doesn't always work out in your favor. But with Trimble, hey, now he's on the 40-man roster. If something happens, they need to bring a guy up from AAA in a pinch. He's probably going to be the guy. And once you get a shot, if you can have some early success, then you could be well on your way to a major league career. I think it's awesome. And maybe because of all the injuries, just silver linings, Glass has full take on that. Maybe they think there's still more development to go for him. Like he could still reach another level depending on if he is able to stay healthy moving forward. But yeah, I'm happy for Trimble. I think it's great that one of these, what is it, second to fourth round outfielders could actually make it all the way through onto the 40-man roster. So good for him. He's got skills for days. He's like a 5-tool player. He could be the Kyle Tucker light, like Dylan Beavers, where you're decent at everything, great at nothing, except obviously Kyle Tucker's more like very, very good at everything, maybe not elite at one thing, but yeah, hope for the best. It's always nice to be surprised. That's what this offseason is apparently about, so buckle up. One
more note about Reed Trimble. It's another win for Oriole scout David Jennings. He's a David Jennings guy, if that helps the confidence in what Trimble could potentially bring for anybody.
That is a big win there. And I want to take a second to talk about the Trimble Fabian thing, because I saw that was really debated in our Discord, was why Trimble over Fabian. Is there a risk that Fabian is going to be taken in the Rule 5 draft? I have my own feelings about that, but I want to hear what you guys think first.
So, all right. I don't know. I took what I thought was the contrarian stance on Judge Fabian last week, and it honestly wasn't just for the sake of conversation. I didn't see a need to protect him because, I mean, first percentile contact rate, second percentile whiff, those are dreadful numbers. I know it was the injury. I don't think that's relevant. It's still awful whiff. And he struggles to hit fastballs. I can't remember who highlighted that specific. I think it was Fangraphs report or Baseball America report. One of them, I think this was talking about as he was coming through the system. He struggles to hit fastballs and he struggles to hit pitches in the zone. Two things that the Orioles need help with. And I just feel like if a team's looking for a reserve outfield role and you want that speed and defense, I feel like you can get that through the waiver wire. You can get that through minor league free agency. Fabian, I don't know. Like I like Fabian a lot. I followed him a lot in college. I wish him all the success in this system. I want to see him stay. If he ever reaches the major leagues, I'm going to cheer hard for him. I watched Auburn games last year just to watch his brother play. Like I like the entire Fabian family. I feel like to be a little bit more critical around Rule 5 time here, I felt like you could let him go. And actually, I pulled these up here real quick. So Baseball America, I don't know if you guys read these articles over the last couple of days. They put out 2 articles about the Rule 5 stuff. They've put out more looking at their targets, but some data behind the Rule 5 stuff. Since 2020, 81% of Rule 5 draft picks have been pitchers. And just 58 picks over that span, and obviously not all those guys stuck. Of the picks, teams tend to target injured pitchers because they're easier to IO. Juan Nunez was the only Rule 5 pick since 2020 who didn't have AAA and AA experience on the pitching side. And then when teams target pitchers, they want high strikeouts, low walks, high ground balls. And with the hitters, they said age and experience matter a ton. And so they want younger hitters at higher levels. And Judd Fabian is 2 years older than the average hitter taken in the Rule 5 draft. Teams are willing to go slightly older with pitchers, but not with hitters. So he's 25. There's swing and miss. I also just don't think there's a ton of like where he is and what his ceiling is. So I do wonder if teams are going to be a lot more skeptical to take him. Although the White Sox do have 2 former Orioles hitting coaches on their staff. And the White Sox are the White Sox. So that is a team that I would be afraid that could take Fabian there. But I don't know. I like, after reading that Baseball America article, I kind of liked the decisions that were made, who they protected and who they didn't protect. I think Cameron Weston is probably the only one that I'm like, he doesn't have the high strikeouts. The ground balls even weren't really there in AAA like they were in the lower levels of the minor leagues. He doesn't have the big velo. The walks were up as well in AAA. So he kind of goes against all those data points that I just quoted and said, this is why I feel great about the Orioles decisions. Weston, though, I feel like because of the innings and just his unique profile, he's the one guy they didn't protect that I could see a team maybe bucking those numbers a little bit here and saying, we're going to try him out as our 5 starter or a long reliever, eventually work him into the back of the rotation. And if it clicks and if it works, we've got our number 4, number 5 starter next year. Bang, huge win in the Rule 5 draft for us. No one else the Orioles didn't protect, I think, has that profile. So Weston was the only one that I felt like there might be a little risk there.
Yeah, I definitely would have protected Weston. I'm a big fan of his. I would have certainly protected him. Hopefully, if he does get picked, he comes back. But yeah, when it comes to the Fabian versus Trimble, and clearly I was wrong because last week I was saying, nah, you don't protect Trimble. You got to protect Fabian because of this and this and this. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I think the Orioles know more than me. And maybe they think even if he does get picked, if he does happen to get picked, maybe because of that swing and miss that a team just won't have room for him all season long. I don't know. But yeah, I would have protected him. But I'm happy for Trimble. And I think it does say a lot that the Orioles have confidence in his abilities to be a productive major leaguer. So I guess why listen to this show? And we don't know. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think that, Nick, you bring up some good points that Baseball America mentioned. And it does make sense that teams tend to target hitters that are younger because if you have them there for the full year and they don't work out, you just opt them to AAA. And there's a hope that later on they'll develop into being, something for you, even if it's just a bench player. With older players, you don't necessarily have that guarantee. With Fabian, just because there are some loud card-carrying tools with the power and the defense, someone might take him. But it's also very possible that we get through this and no one takes him. And one thing that's important to note, too, is that in most Rule 5 drafts, a fair number of teams don't make a selection at all in the Major League phase. And, some years more than others, you'll see teams pass, but out of the, 30, 32 picks, however many picks there are in the Major League phase this year, you could have 10 teams that pass. So the more teams that pass, the more, in theory, that's the lower the likelihood of a player not being chosen. The only other guy that I would address here is Carter Baumler. Because if you had told me last week the Orioles are going to protect Reed Trimble, I would have thought, well, they're going to protect Carter Baumler because Baumler is kind of the pitching equivalent of Reed Trimble. Guy who had a lot of hype coming out of the draft, lost years because of basically one serious injury after the other. And then this past year showed us what he could do when healthy. I think what that really just came down to, though, is that the Orioles already protected two relievers in Anthony Nunez and Cameron Foster, who have AAA experience. In Nunez's case, I did read, and hat tip to John Mioli on this one, that was apparently to keep him from being a minor league free agent. So that added a different layer to the decision with Nunez. But you add Nunez and Foster, you're going to add more to the Major League bullpen this offseason. And even if one or two relievers are non-tendered later this week, those spots are going to get filled by Major League ready relievers. So the decision to not protect Baumler, who has no experience above AA, in that context does make a little bit more sense. I wouldn't be shocked if he's picked by a team, but I can kind of understand a little bit better why the Orioles didn't protect him.
With the Rule 5 stuff, who knows? Who knows what teams are looking at and what free agents they're looking at and what exact skill sets they're looking to fit their team. We'll see. Final day of the winter meetings, so we'll see who gets picked. I will say about Foster real quick. I don't think I touched on him, but in my initial protection list, I had Cameron Weston, Cameron Foster, and Carter Baumler. And then I think my final remark, Zach's question at the beginning, I was thinking about it as well. Are the Orioles done after Nunez? And I second-guessed myself. I went too much into that, and I just said Cameron Weston. But Foster, I felt like up to that point was a lock. Just this is a 6'5" dude. He's sits 95. He touches 98. It's a heater. You look at his Baseball Savant page. I posted it last night after they selected him. It's bright red, like everywhere. It's a beautiful card. I am very intrigued to see what Cameron Foster can do. But yeah, I don't know if you guys had any more thoughts. We did get a question about the Rule 5 draft. Unless you guys have any more thoughts about the guys.
I have one more point about the Rule 5 just in general, is that I think it's just less and less important these days. Not to say that you still can't find a diamond in the rough, but even just looking at some of the names that were unprotected that are all available in the Rule 5 draft. Frank Mazzucato, 7th pick in the 2021 draft. Benny Montgomery, 8th pick in the 2021 draft. Jacob Berry, Gavin Cross, Kevin Parada, Daniel Susac, Blaze Jordan, Gavin Cross, Miguel Blaze. There's, and that's just hitting prospects. And there's a bunch of really, really pitchers that can touch the upper 90s as well. I mean, there's a lot of really good players available, and yet something tells me there'll only be like 15 to 20 guys taken, and it will probably be guys that we're not even expecting.
Yeah, I think more first-round picks than ever were left unprotected this year. So just on name value alone, I mean, they're left unprotected for a reason, but name value alone, more options where other teams could say, we had a glowing report on him coming out of the draft. I want my shot at fixing that guy. We'll see. But yeah, I'm not too concerned about the Major League phase, the Rule 5 draft at this point. It is the minor league phase. And this is where the question came in. Mac the fan on Twitter, he said he listens as often as he can. Shout out to Mac. Hope you were listening to this episode. Easier to answer the question instead of a limited tweet. I'm also now seeing that you have an App State football logo here in your Twitter account handle. I hope you enjoyed watching your team rush for 1 yard last weekend when you boys came up to Harrisonburg. But love App State. Thank you for love the rivalry, but go Dukes. I guess it's technically he wanted to know about the minor league phase, how it works with the protection and stuff, and returning player potential, I guess. And I know we touch on this a lot, but since Mac asked, I do want to, a regular listener here, I guess technically it says AAA phase, but teams will protect players now. Anyone who's Rule 5 eligible that the Orioles didn't protect, they can add to their AAA roster. It's behind the scenes paper move. Lists aren't usually made public. You can't even go on like their transaction page on like MLB, their MLB player page, and see if they were like moved to AAA. They don't list that. So it's a couple of rounds. You select a player in the minor league phase. You can put them at any level in your minor league system that you want. There are no roster requirements. And if a guy gets picked, like they're gone. They're not coming back to your organization. But if you pick a guy in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft, they're going to continue to be Rule 5 eligible until they are on a 40-man roster. So you're going to have to make a decision with them the next year. Or guys like Zach Peak and Gene Pinto last year who got picked up, they hit minor league free agency. So we can sign them to minor league deals if we want to, Mike. But yeah, that's it. It's a couple $1,000 to make a pick in the minor league phase. So even if you have like a slight interest in a pitcher or whatever, take them, see what happens. But yeah, anyone gets picked in the minor league phase, they're not coming back to your organization.
That's a good spin there. And before we wrap up, I just want to address a comment that we got on YouTube, which was to extend Westberg and trade Bob. So some YouTube commenters not real happy with your anti-Westberg stance recently. I will put this out there, though, to @VaughnJB. Bob declared himself a genius before this episode started because of the live stream title, Always the Debridement and Never the Bride. And then, in fact, he started to talk about himself in the third person after he said that. So I don't think Bob is going anywhere. Are you, Bob?
Bob is here to stay.
And that does it for this episode. We will be back next week to take questions from our listeners as part of our November mailbag. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member today. Join to $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, including our upcoming Top 50 Prospects Countdown. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
It's never too early for Lowe's Black Friday deals. Snag some of our biggest savings of the season right now, like 25% off select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees. And get yourself free select DeWalt, Cobalt, or Craftsman tools when you buy a select battery or combo kit before the Black Friday rush. Because everyone loves free stuff, right? Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
All right, remember, the machine knows if you're lying. First statement, Carvana will give you a real offer on your car all online.
False.
True, actually. You can sell your car in minutes.
False? That's gotta be...
True again. Carvana will pick up your car from your door, or you can drop it off at one of their car vending machines.
Sounds too good to be true, so true.
Finally caught on. Nice job. Honesty isn't just their policy, it's their entire model. Sell your car today, too.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.